Is this normal? That's one of the most searched questions on the internet, and not just about health.
At some point, many people notice something has changed.
Their motivation feels different. Their interest feels lower, or unpredictable. And the first thought is often, is something wrong with me? Today, we're answering that question calmly, scientifically, and honestly. Because the truth is, most changes are not a problem. They're a pattern.
This video is for educational purposes only and is based on medical and scientific research.
It is not intended to replace professional medical advice.
Our goal here is simple: to provide clear, respectful information without shame, exaggeration, or fear-based messaging. When people notice changes in desire, they often feel confused or concerned. Many assume something must be wrong, or that they are the only one experiencing it. In reality, changes in desire are far more common than most people realize, and they are influenced by many factors that have nothing to do with personal failure or loss of health. In this video, we will explore why desire naturally changes over time, what is generally considered normal from a medical perspective, and which factors tend to influence it the most. We will also discuss when changes may be worth paying closer attention to, not as a reason for alarm, but as a way to better understand your overall well-being.
This conversation is about awareness, not judgment.
Understanding how the body and mind work together helps reduce unnecessary worry and replaces uncertainty with knowledge. With that foundation in place, let's begin with the most important fact, one that changes how this entire topic should be viewed. Here is the myth most people grow up believing, even if it is never stated out loud, that desire should always stay the same.
Many people assume that once desire is established, it should remain consistent throughout life.
When it changes, the immediate reaction is often concern, confusion, or self-doubt.
However, this belief is not supported by science. Human motivation is dynamic, not fixed.
The brain and body are constantly responding to internal and external conditions. Desire is not a static trait, it is a responsive system.
It adjusts based on what the body and mind are experiencing at any given time.
Expecting it to remain unchanged across years or decades goes against how human biology actually works. Several key factors influence desire on a daily and long-term basis. Stress plays a major role. When the brain perceives ongoing pressure or threat, it prioritizes survival and stability over motivation and connection.
Sleep is another critical factor.
Poor or inconsistent sleep affects hormone regulation, energy levels, and emotional resilience, all of which influence desire.
Mental load also matters.
Constant decision-making, worry, and responsibility consume cognitive resources that would otherwise support interest and engagement.
Hormones naturally fluctuate over time as well. These changes are influenced by age, health, lifestyle, and environmental factors.
Life stages such as career changes, parenting, relationship transitions, or major responsibilities also shape how the body allocates energy. Even environment plays a role, including light exposure, routine, and daily structure. If desire never changed in response to these factors, that would actually be unusual. Variation is not a sign of dysfunction, it is evidence that the system is responding appropriately to life circumstances.
So when people say, "This used to feel different," it does not automatically mean something is broken. It often means life has changed in meaningful ways.
The mistake many people make is interpreting change as failure, rather than adaptation. Understanding this distinction is essential, because it shifts the conversation away from fear and toward awareness. Once this myth is removed, it becomes much easier to understand what is actually happening and how to respond with clarity instead of concern.
Desire does not begin in the body. It begins in the brain. While physical responses are important, the brain is the central control system that decides when and how the body invests energy.
Every moment, the brain is evaluating internal and external signals to determine what should be prioritized.
At its core, the brain is constantly asking a simple question: is now a good time to invest energy? This question is not about desire alone.
It applies to motivation, focus, creativity, and connection. When the brain senses that conditions are supportive, it allows energy to flow toward these higher-level functions.
When it senses threat or overload, it redirects energy toward protection.
Several factors can signal the brain to shift priorities. High stress tells the nervous system that resources may be needed elsewhere. Fatigue indicates that recovery is required before additional energy can be spent.
Emotional pressure, such as expectations or unresolved concerns, keeps the brain in a state of alert.
A lack of safety, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, signals that it is not an ideal time for vulnerability or connection. Overwork, especially without adequate recovery, reinforces this protective response. When these signals are present, the brain moves into what can be called energy conservation mode.
This is not a malfunction. It is a survival mechanism shaped by evolution.
In this state, the brain reduces non-essential functions and focuses on maintaining balance.
Desire is not eliminated, it is temporarily deprioritized. The brain's primary priorities are survival, stability, and recovery.
These needs must be met before energy is allocated to interest, curiosity, and connection.
This is why periods of intense stress or exhaustion often coincide with changes in desire.
The body is not failing, it is responding intelligently to conditions that require conservation. Understanding this brain-body connection is crucial because it reframes the experience. Changes in desire are often interpreted as personal shortcomings or physical problems. In reality, they are frequently signals from the nervous system asking for rest, safety, or support.
When those foundational needs are addressed, desire often returns naturally. Recognizing this pattern replaces self-judgment with understanding and allows people to respond with care rather than pressure. Let's talk about age, without fear or assumptions. Age is often framed as a loss, but from a biological perspective, it is better understood as a series of transitions. Each stage of life brings different demands, priorities, and patterns of energy use. Desire changes alongside these shifts, not because something is wrong, but because the body is adapting. In your 20s, hormone levels are generally higher and recovery tends to be faster. Many people also experience fewer long-term responsibilities during this stage, which can leave more physical and mental energy available. Stress is not absent, but it may be less persistent, allowing the nervous system to return to balance more easily. These conditions can support higher or more consistent motivation, but they are not a universal standard. In your 30s and 40s, life often becomes more complex. Responsibilities increase, whether through career demands, family obligations, or long-term commitments. Mental load rises as decision-making becomes constant and multifaceted. Sleep quality and quantity may decrease due to stress, schedules, or health changes. These factors do not eliminate desire, but they can change how and when it appears. In your 50s and beyond, hormonal patterns naturally shift. The body becomes more sensitive to recovery, nutrition, rest, and emotional well-being. Energy management becomes a key factor in overall health. This stage often requires greater awareness of balance rather than effort or intensity. Desire may feel different, but different does not mean diminished. One of the most common mistakes people make is comparing the present to the past. Comparing now to 10 years ago creates unrealistic expectations and unnecessary concern. The body is not designed to function the same way across every decade. Each stage has its own version of balance. A more helpful question is not, why isn't this like before, but rather, what does balance look like now? When people shift their focus in this way, they often find that well-being improves. Understanding age as adaptation rather than decline allows desire to be viewed with curiosity and care, instead of fear or judgment. Stress is the factor most people underestimate when they think about changes in desire.
Not dramatic, obvious stress, but constant, low-level stress that becomes part of daily life. This type of stress often goes unnoticed because it feels normal, but biologically, it has a powerful effect. Modern stress rarely comes from immediate danger. Instead, it comes from ongoing mental pressure.
Work demands that never fully switch off. Financial concerns that stay in the background of every decision. Digital overload from constant notifications, screens, and information.
Poor sleep that prevents the nervous system from fully resetting. And perhaps most importantly, a lack of true mental recovery time. The body responds to all of this by activating stress hormones. These hormones are useful in short bursts, they help us focus, react, and solve problems.
But when stress becomes constant, those same hormones begin to compete directly with motivation and connection pathways in the brain.
The nervous system shifts into a state of alert. In this state, the brain prioritizes efficiency and protection. Energy is directed toward monitoring, problem-solving, and staying prepared. This is why stress can improve performance in the short term. But it also explains why sustained stress reduces interest in connection and pleasure.
The brain is not malfunctioning, it is following its design.
Your body cannot stay in alert mode and connection mode at the same time.
Alert mode is about readiness and survival.
Connection mode requires safety, openness, and availability of energy.
When stress remains high, the brain quietly turns down non-essential signals.
Desire often becomes quieter as a result.
This does not mean something is wrong. It means the system is protecting itself from overload. Many people interpret this change as a personal failure or a loss of vitality. In reality, it is often a sign that the nervous system needs recovery. When stress is reduced even slightly, many people notice that motivation and interest return naturally. This is why managing stress is not a luxury, it is a biological requirement. Understanding this connection allows people to respond with support rather than pressure. Reduced desire under stress is not weakness. It is protection. Here is a truth that is rarely said clearly enough: there is no single definition of normal. Human biology does not operate on one fixed standard.
What is normal for one person, or even for the same person at a different time in life, may look very different.
Normal depends on many interconnected factors. Your physical health plays a role, including nutrition, movement, and recovery. Your stress level shapes how much energy your nervous system has available. Sleep quality directly affects brain chemistry and emotional balance. Your mental state influences motivation, focus, and interest. And your life stage determines how the body prioritizes energy and attention. Because of this complexity, frequency alone is not a useful measure. Counting how often something happens does not capture the full picture. Two people with the same pattern may feel completely different about it. What truly matters is not a number, but how you experience the change. A more meaningful approach is to ask a few honest questions. Do I feel distressed by this change? Is it affecting my quality of life, my relationships, or my sense of well-being? Or am I comparing myself to expectations that may not fit my current situation? Often, the discomfort people feel does not come from the body itself, but from comparison. Social norms, media portrayals, and cultural assumptions create an idea of how things should be. When reality does not match that idea, anxiety can appear. The comparison creates pressure, and pressure activates stress, further reinforcing the cycle. When people stop comparing themselves to an external standard and instead focus on their own experience, clarity often improves. A change that once felt alarming may simply be a reflection of shifting priorities or temporary stress. This perspective does not dismiss genuine concerns, but it helps separate biological variation from unnecessary worry. Understanding that normal varies allows for a more compassionate and accurate view of health. It shifts the focus from judgment to awareness.
Instead of asking whether something fits a universal standard, the more helpful question becomes whether it aligns with your current needs and well-being. In many cases, that simple shift reduces anxiety and restores confidence. Most changes in desire are part of normal human variation. The body adjusts continuously in response to stress, sleep, emotions, and life demands. In many cases, these shifts resolve naturally as conditions change. However, there are moments when it can be helpful to look a little deeper.
Paying attention does not mean assuming something is wrong.
It means staying aware of patterns that persist or begin to affect overall well-being. One sign to notice is a consistently low mood that lasts for weeks or months rather than days.
Another is extreme or ongoing fatigue that does not improve with rest.
A general loss of interest across many areas of life, not just motivation or connection, but hobbies, goals, or enjoyment, can also be important to observe.
Major sleep disruption is another signal worth noticing.
Sleep plays a central role in brain regulation, hormone balance, and emotional health.
When sleep is consistently poor, many systems are affected at once.
Sudden, unexplained shifts that do not align with obvious life changes can also be useful to explore. These changes may feel confusing, but they are not uncommon.
None of these signs are reasons for panic. They are not alarms, they are indicators.
They suggest that the system may need support, adjustment, or further understanding.
Curiosity is a healthier response than fear.
Asking questions allows for clarity, while worry often adds unnecessary stress.
Talking to a qualified professional can be part of that process.
This is not about failure or weakness. It is about optimization, understanding how your body and mind are responding and identifying ways to support balance. Professionals are trained to look at patterns, rule out underlying factors, and provide guidance based on evidence rather than assumptions. Seeking insight is no different from adjusting nutrition, improving sleep habits, or managing stress. It is a proactive approach to health.
When people reframe support as a tool rather than a last resort, the experience becomes empowering rather than intimidating.
Ultimately, paying attention means respecting your body's signals.
Awareness allows small concerns to be addressed early and often prevents unnecessary distress.
Most variation is normal, but listening carefully helps ensure that well-being stays on track.
What actually helps is often simpler than people expect.
Most individuals do not need drastic interventions or extreme changes. They need stronger foundations that support the nervous system and restore balance. Sleep quality is one of the most powerful factors. Consistent, restorative sleep helps regulate hormones, stabilize mood, and improve mental clarity.
Even small improvements in sleep timing or routine can have meaningful effects. Stress reduction is closely connected. Reducing ongoing mental pressure rather than eliminating all stress allows the brain to shift out of constant alert mode. Physical activity supports circulation, brain chemistry, and emotional regulation. This does not require intense exercise. Regular movement that feels sustainable is enough to signal safety and stability to the nervous system. Equally important is mental recovery time.
Moments without screens, demands, or performance expectations allow the brain to reset and conserve energy.
Honest self-reflection ties everything together. Instead of judging changes, it helps to ask what the body may be responding to. When people respond with curiosity rather than pressure, stress decreases and balance improves.
When the nervous system feels safe, supported, and rested, motivation often returns on its own. This is not about forcing outcomes, it is about creating the conditions where well-being can naturally re-emerge.
So, is this normal? In most cases, yes. Completely. Change does not mean decline. It means adaptation.
The human body and brain are designed to respond to life as it unfolds, not to stay frozen at one point in time. Shifts in motivation, energy, and interest are part of being alive in a changing world. The goal is not to return to the past or measure yourself against who you were years ago.
The goal is to understand what your body is responding to right now. When that understanding replaces fear, clarity often follows.
If this video helped you feel more informed, calmer, or less alone, then it has done exactly what it was meant to do.
Knowledge reduces anxiety. Context restores confidence. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are human. And human biology is flexible, responsive, and capable of recalibration.
If you found this video helpful, like the video to support science-based education.
Subscribe for clear, judgment-free health content. Share it with someone who might need reassurance. Understanding your body is one of the most powerful forms of self-care.